Now call this meeting to order. Could I have a motion on the minutes, please? All right, we have a motion on the minutes to approve with a proper second with no objections. Minutes will stand as recorded. Ordinances on final reading, we have one under council office, which is the moratorium. Any questions or comments on that? I will not have the clerk read that at this time. All right, seeing no lights, we'll move to resolutions. Madam Clerk, 7A, please.
A resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Sarah McNamee to the Library Board of Directors.
Any questions or comments? If not, we'll move to B, please.
A resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Timothy Goldsmith and the appointments of Ian Elijah Bay, Jonathan Dean Sega Tassima, and Anthony Wiley to the Chattanooga Public Art Commission.
All right. Council, if you would look at your purchase request for this afternoon. Chief, I've got 11 items. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You should have 11 items in your packet. Are there any questions or comments? And also one RFP recommendation. Councilwoman Burrs.
Chief, this is a global RFP because you got my email from Silverdale.
I did.
Okay. So I think that before I can approve it, if it includes this, we have to honor that.
This is
Meeting.
not for the airport inn. So this is not covering
It's
those
a
services.
global.
Yeah, this is largely for the connective services that connect all of our homeless.
Yeah, I'm
services
good with
providers.
that. I just wanted that on the record, particularly since we just got that.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Councilwoman.
All right, you good, Councilwoman? All right, I'm not seeing any other lights. Moving to future considerations. Council, is there anything on future considerations that needs to be brought to the attention of the council? Councilman Ledford.
Chairman, thank you. I just would like to get offline some more information on item D. I've worked with CNE in the past and a very big fan of the work they do, and I'm very interested in knowing more about this item. Thank you.
Which item is that, sir?
Item D, sir.
D under, okay. Jermaine, I guess at some point, and we don't have to do it today, why don't we do it next week during agenda session?
Okay.
That'll be on the 2-week agenda, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Will that be good, sir? That way you'll have some time to prepare.
Okay.
Councilwoman Coonrod?
Thank you, Chair. Item E. And I know over the past years, I continue to ask this question about the partnership with Eastgate. And we have 18 YFD sites and most of them are underutilized. I know when you all first got into the office, you all said that you were looking to see if this is something we will continue to do with our senior center, to have it at Eastgate, or will we look at other options? Have you all looked at other options? I think, and our seniors have voiced a couple of times that they want their own standalone building. I do see we have the space, the surplus in our own stock with our YFD centers that we currently have. Just want to get more information of what's next, because I think that, to continue to spend money on a building that's not ours, I think our seniors would appreciate, not just the seniors that attend the Eastgate site. I mean, we have more seniors that live in communities that I'm sure would like to have access to activities.
Yes, absolutely. So a couple of things on that. One, we do not currently feel right now that we have the surplus space to do this without another property acquisition if we were to move. And in terms of your points around more folks having access to senior services, we agree. We're currently working with our community development department to pilot some distributed services in other community centers. It's in supplement to the services that we currently offer at the senior center. But right now, to be candid, I think one of the things that has been a barrier in looking for new space is this real estate market. It is extremely challenging to find a good deal for taxpayers in buying a new building for for this purpose. We've looked at a couple of properties, and frankly, they were not financially viable. And so this lease is the best financial deal currently. Jermaine, did you have anything else to add to that, or?
No, I would just say that the price of the lease per square foot has been pretty consistent now for a number of years, and it hasn't gone up. So I would just mention that as well.
And the last thing I will say is that we are launching our community advisory committees that is really designed to help the participants in these individual centers, including the senior center, determine what kinds of programming and where they would. And as we get those online, I think we'll have a better understanding of more locations is what they're looking for, different kinds of services. We really want to let the folks who are benefiting from these services help drive the decisions about where they go. But right now, this is the most fiscally sound decision from the administration's perspective.
So when we get ready to launch there, are you gonna make sure that you're sending that information out to all the seniors within our city of Chattanooga and not just the Eastgate seniors?
We'll make sure that not every senior will in the city will get to participate, but we absolutely have a broader community outside of the folks who use just that one particular facility, and we'll make sure that we engage them.
And will you also send it to council members so we can engage with the seniors that's within
I'm happy
our
to do that.
district? Thank you.
All right. You good? All right. Any other questions or comments on future considerations? Very well. That takes us to, the April the 12th agenda. I believe I skipped over that. Council, if you'd take a look at your April the 12th agenda. Let me know if you have any concerns on anything on our 2-week agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I think I might have missed something really quickly. I wanted to say that we have 2 department reports today. We have an HR department report as well as an economic development department report. I was curious if you wanted to do that now or later in the agenda.
We'll do it here in just a minute.
Okay, thank you.
I'm backing up and getting an item I left off.
Gotcha.
All right, I'm not seeing any questions regarding our April the 12th agenda, which will bring us to departmental reports. And I'm seeing economic development on here. So I think that, Mr. Freeman, or do you want to do HR first?
Either one, whichever you prefer. I just wanted to make sure that HR and economic development were both heard.
Okay. All right.
I was just say we could go ahead and start with HR if that's okay with y'all.
That's fine with me. We'll do ladies first.
All right. Good afternoon, council. This is my first time up here, so
Good
forgive me if
afternoon.
I'm speaking into the microphone. So I'm Mandy Lawrence. I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer here. And if we can get the PowerPoint pulled up, that would be awesome. Yes, please.
Just take a deep breath and remember to breathe.
That would be a good thing. Well, I want to thank you for taking this opportunity to let me do the report out for human resources. As I push the button too much. So currently, human resources here at the city is comprised of 6 divisions. So we have compensation, HRMS, operations, safety and risk, benefits, and training. We have 34 positions with 6 vacancies currently. I keep pushing that too fast. So I've been here since December, and some of the accomplishments that we've had is we had a Gallagher pay plan study done. And a result of that pay plan was that I came into a lot of appeals that had been filed. And so we did complete that pay plan appeal study, and we ended up doing it in-house, which saved the city about $128,000, which is great. We had 320 appeals, 58% of those were approved. And now we're looking to see what we're going to do in the future as far as pay to remain competitive and for sustainability for the city. Another accomplishment is Oracle. So we've rolled out Oracle Cloud. We had some compliance training that we were able to roll out to all employees with some hiccups, but we were able to get that rolled out. So that was very exciting. We've also created position control that demonstrates vacancies as well as filled positions. So that's very exciting. As far as operations is concerned, we're really working on customer service, consistency of our practices and processes to avoid risk, of course, and that we are also working on our HR fundamentals. And then with recruiting, we've done some targeted outreach. So recently, we did a new life job fair for felons. We've also worked with Chat State. They have a commercial driver's license program. And so we've been working with them to funnel people to Public Works. And we are also working in other areas with them. And then we've had faster turnaround time with Oracle because of being able to do it through the system instead of having to use NeoGov, which we used before. As far as training, we have launched multiple trainings every single month, from crucial conversations to goal setting, and we plan to continue to do that and do some more leadership training for everyone. Our goal, of course, is to put together a supervisory training so all supervisors go through that. And then with safety, we got a new third-party administrator, which has shortened our claims. We've been able to close a lot of claims, things that were kind of outstanding when I walked in the door. So some of the highlights we have coming up is we, of course, have open enrollment. We've got fitness classes back in person, gyms open 24/7. We have wellness initiatives, the Better Me, the wellness program, leadership management training, and then we finished the temporary staff RFP. Some of our priorities going forward, as you can see, I don't want to have to read this whole slide to you, but we're really focusing on our consistency of service, looking at the information guide, doing administrative updates with that to make sure it's current with what we're doing, especially since we moved to Oracle. We've changed a lot of things that we used to do manually to electronic. Want to make sure that mirrors that. As far as making sure everyone knows how to use Oracle Cloud, training, and then that pay plan, which is deciding where we want to go in the future now that the pay plan study is over, because that was actually 2 years ago when Gallagher pay plan started. And performance appraisals and then employee engagement surveys. So do you have any questions for me?
I do have a lot. Councilman Ledford.
Chairman, thank you. Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
My question, when you were talking about recruiting, do we have a direct path from our educational institutions such as UTC, Chattanooga State, and others in the area to try and recruit some talent straight from the college into the city, and maybe hope in building long-term incredible assets for the city?
Yeah, so currently we do advertise everything on Handshake, I believe, which goes to the colleges. So we're getting that information of our positions that we have, and we are making those partnerships with people at the various colleges. So we're still working on some of the smaller colleges, but we do have people that we contact directly there to give us the pipeline. In fact, in HR, I have Todd Dockery, I think, who used to work here, who we're trying to get some because we have vacancies in HR, but we're really working to develop those partnerships so we can create those funnels. We're also working to create internships and entry-level positions so we can get people straight out of college, because right now most of our positions require that you have a lot of years of experience before you start. And so we want to create that junior level position so that we can get people in the door and interested in public sector work. So that's on the strategy.
Very good. Thank you for that. Chairman, thank you.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
So I have a question. In August, the Mayor's Council for Women asked your department for a breakdown of employees, the Justice Committee, and we were told that it had to go through an Open Records Act, and there was all kinds of, I think, incorrect information given. The issue is we want to brag about the city and what the city's doing, and we can't seem to get that information. When do you think that might be forthcoming?
I'm not sure what you asked for because I wasn't here in August, but I'd be happy to provide. If you send me a list of the things that you're looking for, I'd be happy to get them for you.
It has been resent and resent. Who should we be sending it to?
If you could send it directly to me, I'll make sure you get it.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Good.
I'm good.
All right. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mandy, remind us again how long you've been here?
Since December.
Since
December 13th.
So a short 4.5 months, not quite 5. So This is one of those positions in the city that tends to not necessarily fall on the good side of things when it comes to employees around the city, right? So I just wanted to take a minute and tell you, welcome to coming and speaking to the council for the first time. And then I want to give you props, pretty big ones in my opinion, in that I have heard from city employees in just this short time you've been here, how happy and excited they are to have an HR director such as yourself in this role. And I'm going to say it's very rare that I ever hear that. So in just a short amount of time you've been here, you've made an impact. And I want you to know that because it's one of those positions that you rarely do hear the positive. Those of us up here are very familiar with that. So I think you should know that there are a lot of people in the city that truly do appreciate what you are doing and the direction that you are taking us. And thank you very much for coming and being a part of our city.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. I appreciate that. I really do.
That's all the lots that I have.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for your
ma-
time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, may I just add one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
Can we put the slide back up? We did want to make you aware the EIG administrative changes. The HR department has started compiling a list. The document, the EIG employee information guide, is quite outdated. And so this is a part of Mandy's presentation today, is to give a heads up that we plan on coming with multiple iterations of these administrative changes. And so open to partnership with the council in terms of the most efficient way to do that. It is a pretty cumbersome bureaucratic process. So just wanted to put that on the radar.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Freeman?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So today we'll be hearing, presenting a departmental report on the our annual process for how we allocate CDBG and home funding. So our affordable housing manager, Sandra Gober, will come up to present that report. So if we could get the slides up, thank you.
Good afternoon. Speaking of bureaucratic processes, this is just to kind of quickly go through the annual federal entitlement funding, the providing you with information on what we anticipate receiving, and the process through which we vetted the applications and the recommendations that have come out of the out of the process in anticipation for the expected use of those funds. I'll quickly kind of go through the two grants that we expect to receive this year are the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnership funds from HUD. And the eligible allocation or use of those dollars is primarily for affordable housing and community development activities. This is what we anticipate receiving, a total of a little over $3 million. And that includes the direct allocation from HUD, as well as what we call program income. And those are proceeds that we have been generated off of prior use of federal funds. So again, overall, we expect to have a total of about a little over $3 million. And these are estimates that are based on what we typically receive. Because the process is a 6-month process, we typically use the prior year allocation to kind of estimate what we're going to get. All of the federal funds, I'll quickly go through this, they're required to be used to benefit low-income families or eliminate blight, or we can use it for particular urgencies. The majority of the funding, we're always using it pretty much for benefit to low mod income persons. Any funding that we receive or allocate, we're expected to tie it back to our 5-year or consolidated plan. And in that plan, we're outlining that everything has to at least tie into preserving affordable housing, it will provide economic opportunities, or stabilize neighborhoods, or provide public services to citizens facing homelessness. The target population, I think you probably heard this a million times. The definition of low income, this is just a chart that sort of outlined the household size. These are the regulations or targets through which we're required to operate when we're looking at programs or projects and households that will be served. And these are the rents that we are held to in regards to complying with assistance and the income limits based on family size. Let's see. The process, as I stated, it is sort of a 6-month process. We're typically starting in January. We're looking at and anticipating, or at least calculating, what we anticipate receiving from HUD. We go through an application process through which we release an application into the community, indicating that we anticipate having the funding available and that we accept applications sort of based on the criteria outlined in the application and the requirements. The applications did come in March 7th. On March 28th, the staff with the Community Development Advisory Committee vetted the applications, and following is the proposed recommendation for the expenditures of the funds. And I won't go down and read through this entire list, but the majority of the funding is for housing, community, sidewalks, public services, but principally for the preservation of and production of affordable housing. And this right here is sort of just by category, how the funds are kind of allocated. And again, over 51% or 50% of the funding is for the preservation, production of affordable housing. On April 18th, we're going to have a public meeting. This is, again, part of the process. We have hold a public meeting, and we pretty much will be sharing this exact same information with the public on that date. We're going to have the public meeting is going to be in the DRC at 6 o'clock, and we have a 30-day comment period. We prepare the information, make all of this available to the public for review for 30 days. And then on May 10th, we will come back to City Council to request a resolution approving the recommendations, the acceptance of the funding, and the recommendations for the allocations as outlined.
Are you ready for some questions?
I'm ready for any questions.
Council, do you have any questions or comments concerning any of these, the process or the funds? Councilwoman Burrs.
I have a comment. You've been doing this for a number of years and you do an outstanding job, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, even though you've stopped working out.
I go
I
down
want it
time.
on the record that she's been working out in my class and you haven't been showing up. Other than that,
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
we'll talk about it
We'll
later.
talk about it later.
No, thank you so much for this. You've done a wonderful job every year. It's a lot of hard work,
Thank you.
and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. I don't see any other lights. Thank you, ma'am. Mr.
Thank you.
Freeman, is that the conclusion of your report? Well, that's
it.
easy on your part, wasn't it? Yes. All right. All right, that takes us to our committee time. We do have Parks and Public Works and Planning and Zoning this afternoon. And in Councilman Hester's absence, I will go ahead and chair Parks and Public Works. Councilman Ledford, a comment?
I was going to offer to.
Thank you. All right, call to order Parks and Public Works Committee. Could I have approval of minutes, please? All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes with a proper second with no objections. Minutes will stand as recorded. Ordinances, first reading, Madam Clerk, 6A, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning an alley in the 300 block of West Main Street as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
6B.
An ordinance closing and abandoning an alley in the 1500 block of Polk Street as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
C.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a right-of-way located in the 1400 block of Top Street at the corners of East Main Street and East 14th Street as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
Councilwoman Knoll, a lot happening in your district. 6D, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning an alley in the 1500 block of South Watkins Street, which runs parallel to East Main Street and connects South Lardley Street and South Watkins Street as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
In absence of Councilwoman Coonrod at this point in time, I will ask, this is recommended for denial by transportation.
True.
Normally, when they make it to our agenda, we don't see a recommendation for denial. Could you kind of explain a little bit?
It's an alley, if you can imagine. If you look at your backup material, there's an aerial map and plat, but basically it's a city block with an alley run right down the middle. On one side of the property, there's a plat, the same owner as a smaller plat on the other side of the alley, same block. And the applicant is trying to join together an L-shaped parcel without the alley in between. Unfortunately, there's also another parcel owned by a separate property owner in the middle of that L that could make use of the alley. Currently, that property has encroachments onto the alley, so obviously is not using it as an alley. But the building's very old. There's the possibility that owner would look to redevelop the plat and could make use of the alley. Understand there have been no objections from that property owner, but we're looking for the future use of all three plats, two different owners, and the possibility that there could be use of that
So
alley.
there's no objection from the property owner that could use the alleyway. Is that correct?
That
that
is
what-
true. That is true.
Okay.
Honestly, it's not a very strong, very pronounced recommendation for denial, but
Not,
for the
not a
future
full-throated
development-
recommendation for denial. Is that what?
I can't find the right words, but that's as good as any,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
All right. Moving to resolutions 7C, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 3 final for J. Cumbie Construction, Inc. of Cookeville, Tennessee for contract number W16017201 MBWWTP Solids Process of Optimization Implementation Phase 2 Thickener Upgrades, a consent decree project for final reconciliation of unit items for a decrease of $25,314.03 to release the remaining contingency amount of $20,000 for a revised total contract amount of $5,771,899.95.
Councilman Ledford, is this C or is this a follow-up on D?
Yes, sir. You read my mind. It is a follow-up on D, as we heard this in Planning Commission last month. Planning Commission did approve this because it's part of the Milltown project. And when you hear the evidence, as probably will be presented, I wish Councilwoman Coonrod was here, but I understand she may be indisposed at the moment, it kind of doesn't make sense to not abandon it when you look at the overall picture of what Milltown is undergoing right now. So I think in the planning world, we sometimes use the word soft denial, maybe, Tom, on that. But I understand where you came from a technical standpoint. But in the overall picture of Milltown, I think that the Planning Commission actually looked at that into consideration of their recommendation.
And staff can certainly accept that.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, Councilwoman Hill?
Thank you, Chair. Councilman Ledford answered part of my question about the thought process in Planning Commission. One other question, the commentary within the report was compelling to me about allowing access off of East Main and allowing access and reducing curb cuts, to East Main. Do you know, was there an intent by Collier Construction to maintain the alley just in a new way within their design?
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I may respond, I know this is a little bit out of our ordinary context, but the engineer for the project is on site to answer that question specifically. And this has been a conversation piece that we've been walking through for a while now. Would it be inappropriate, or would you allow the engineer to answer that question directly from council for Councilwoman Hill?
I think so. I mean, if that would be.
I think it's important to gather context on this particular.
Yeah, I mean,
case.
since we're voting on this, I think we need to.
Okay, if so, I'd like to
We
call.
need to be clear on it.
I'd like to call on Donna Shepherd, if you could answer that question, please, Donna, if you'd come to the mic. And I appreciate the opportunity for the variance on this.
I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you today. One of the comments that transportation had made was access to that other parcel. We did leave 50 feet unabandoned from the South Lyerly side. So this particular alley connects South Lyerly to South Watkins. Collier does own the parcel to the south from South Lyerly all the way to South Watkins, and then they own the southwest corner parcel of East Main and South Watkins. And so the plan for this particular project is to do a shared drive in close proximity to this alley that is being abandoned. It's not directly in line with it. The parcel, which we call Lot 16 on the corner, is very small. And so we have shifted this shared drive to the south on South Watkins just a little bit to allow for parking. Now, C3 does not require parking, but we are providing parking for this parcel. And so there will be a shared entrance off of South Watkins. I believe it's 22 feet wide, which is considerably wider than a 10-foot alley. This lot 15 will also be developed and have parking. And so there will be a joint access off of that road. And then on South Watkins, on the west side, we will be providing on-street parking as well to help with the development plan. As mentioned in the staff report, this building on this adjacent parcel does encroach into the alley. And so to keep it open and pass all the way through is not possible right now. And so we feel like we have provided access, rear access, for this adjacent parcel from South Lyerly. So they still have that available to them. There is a sanitary sewer public line that runs through this alley, and we will maintain an easement for it.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Thank you.
Great. Okay, and I believe we did read 7C, correct? Let's move to next week. April the 12th. Under first reading, 6-0, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a sanitary sewer easement located in the 1500 block of Polk Street, tax map number 146PG011, as detailed on the attached map.
Some more District 8 work. Under resolutions, 7C.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 3 final for HDR Engineering, Inc., contract number W16017101, MB WWTP Solid Process Optimization Implementation Phase 2 Thickener Upgrades, a constant decree project for a final reconciliation of tasks for a decrease of $4,515.36 for a revised contract total of $807, $253.64.
D, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 1 final with J&J Contractors, Inc. of Chattanooga, Tennessee for contract number R17004-201 Greenwade Farms New Conference Center for an increased amount of $218,214.76 for reconciliation of unit items for a contract total amount of $1,795,814.76.
And I see no light from the vice chair. Mr. Hudka, Mr. Hudka, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our Public Works portion of the agenda. I'll now turn the chair over to Councilman Ledford for Parks and Public Works. Golly. You can committee whatever you want to.
Thank you, sir. I wouldn't go that far. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Planning and Zoning. The most exciting part of your Tuesday, right, Karen?
Yes.
All right, very good. If I can go ahead and get a approval for our minutes, please. Thank you. Minutes will stand as written. Okay. We have ordinances for next Tuesday, April 12th. Karen, you want to kick us off?
Okay, and there's a presentation if we can get that loaded. We have 15 planning items. We have 14 cases. 13 of those are new. Of those new cases, 13 had opposition. We have one case that's been deferred from past meetings and an ordinance amendment. So I think we've kind of gotten into a rhythm of those cases that have opposition. I'll go into a little bit more detail. Otherwise, I will just hit the high points and you can let me know if there's any questions or you'd like greater detail. Just starting to work through. 6A is case 2021-219. This is a holdover from last year. This case did have opposition. This is property at 6340 Middle Valley Road. The property was rezoned to RT1 in 2020 with conditions, and the request is to lift those conditions. Because it has opposition, I'll go into some more detail. This property is north and west of Valley Brook subdivision. It's just south of Lower Mill Road on Middle Valley Road. There's a mix of zones at this location. The property is zoned RT1, that light yellow zone. Surrounding it is the R1 residential zone. The project is for 11 units. 8 of those are attached townhouse type units and then the 3 detached units. So the condition from the ordinance in 2020 was a maximum of 4 dwelling units per acre. And then the second condition is that townhomes be located on that property to the north. And that is just to keep those attached units a little bit closer to the intersection and start to decrease that density as you move away from it. Staff had supported amending the condition to allow more units, so to allow a density of 5.5 units an acre and removing the limitation on that townhouse location. There was substantial opposition at Planning Commission from the Valley Brook neighborhood and the neighboring residents. And there were several community meetings. At the last Planning Commission meeting, there was quite a bit of public input on what had been discussed at those meetings. and some conditions were proposed, and then Planning Commission also worked on some conditions. So this comes with a recommendation from Commission for the following, which is amending that first condition to allow a maximum density of 5.5 dwelling units per acre, and adding the following condition: no curb cuts to joining parcels. This is to make sure there's no extension really into any other property from this development. Limit the development to 1.5 stories or lower in height, and the development is limited to a maximum of 8 attached townhouse units and 3 single-family detached dwellings. And those detached dwellings are on the southern property area, which is closer to the Valley Brook neighborhood. So it comes with a recommendation to both amend and lift conditions from that 2020 ordinance.
Thank you, Karen. Vice Chairman, I know you've been following this one very closely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've had a number of community meetings on this. So I think we're okay to move forward, Karen, as is. Is that site map that you just showed, is that the only thing we've received thus far? That would resemble a site map?
Believe the last thing that was provided at Planning Commission, which is showing those 3 units on their own lot.
Right. So one of the things that, just more of an FYI than anything, the conditions from planning are perfect. I'd had that conversation with a lot of the residents and the neighbors, but I will want to attach a site map as an additional condition when this comes before this body, just to make sure that they do develop the way that they are proposing to develop, especially those 3 parcels in the back. So just that's kind of a note, and I hope that we have something maybe even a little bit better to attach. They should be aware. They were at the meetings, and I told them I would be requesting that.
Okay, I will reach out and see if they have anything else to provide prior to next week's meeting that can be attached to the ordinance.
That'd be great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Karen, can we make sure when that site plan comes through to contact Vice Chairman and make sure he has his eyes on it as well?
I will, yes.
Thank you. Very good. All right, moving on to item B, please.
Item B also had opposition. This is on Old Hickson Pike, a rezoning. This is at the intersection of Gadd Road and Old Hickson Pike, just east of Vandergrift Park. The railroad tracks run along the eastern side of it. It's just the northwest of Hickson Pike. There's a mix of zoning and land uses in the area. This is the zoning map. So the R2 zone is the orange zone. There's some residential, R1 single-family residential just to the west of the site. The property proposal is for 74 units with a density of 21 dwelling units an acre. So staff found the request compatible with adjacent uses in development form. The proposed density exceeded the medium density recommended in the Hickson North River Plan. That plan recommends that multifamily can be introduced into an area as long as density is compatible. So staff had recommended a condition limiting density. Staff also recommended a condition prohibiting driveways on Old Hickson Pike as suggested by transportation. So the staff recommendation went to Planning Commission with the density condition and the driveway condition. There was opposition from, I believe, 2 residents related to just a number of units and traffic already in that location. And Planning Commission discussed the staff recommendation limiting density and recommends approval of the R3 zone with just the condition of the no individual driveways permitted on Old Hickson Pike. And if I'm remembering the discussion correctly, Planning Commission asked about the other R3 zones in the areas and if they had conditions limiting density, and the answer was no. So just for consistency, Planning Commission went ahead and is recommending the no individual driveways on Old Hickson Pike.
Very good, Karen. Vice Chair, you're still active if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've had a number of conversations on this one as well. Same kind of comments as far as the site plan. I'm actually okay with the density in this area, but I will want to make sure that any rezone to something like an R3 doesn't suddenly turn into 200 units as opposed to what's being presented, just because we're not putting a specific limitation in as a condition. I may end up adding that at the last minute, Karen, just to be sure that doesn't happen. But I'm happy to talk to the developer about it. We've been in communication about that.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thanks for following that through. Karen, item C. Councilwoman Hill, I apologize. I thought I saw your light on item B, but then it disappeared. Thank you. Item C, Karen.
Okay, case 59 is on Hickson Pike. This is north of Big Ridge Road and just northeast of East Boy Scout Road. It's a proposed multifamily development with 147 units. This also roughly equates to 21 dwelling units an acre. Staff and Planning Commission recommended approval based on the plan recommendation, which is high-density residential for the site. The plan also recommends not continuing commercial development, the commercial zoning along Hickson Pike, but rather concentrating it at nodes and centers. So rezoning property to residential zoning, the R3 zone, would also help implement that plan recommendation. There was no opposition at Planning Commission, and this comes with a recommendation from Planning Commission to approve.
Vice Chair.
See if that works. There we go. Thank you, Chair. Do we have any other information than this slide, Karen?
We do.
Okay.
I can go through, it's East Boy Scout Road
Yeah.
is there to the southwest. And this, we did talk about a potential condition just to make sure addressing the slope issues. We have in the past recommended conditions so development does not creep up Big Ridge, but this site is contained in a less sloped area. There is commercial property to the south. The property across the street is, I believe, under development now with a residential development. It's hard to see on this map, but it does abut the unincorporated county, and that is just immediately to the east of this. There's A1 agricultural zoning. So basically found it's compatible, surrounded by various residential forms, and again, would prevent the expansion of commercial strip corridor development along Hickson Pike.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was no opposition present there because there is a significant amount of opposition. Pretty much everybody that lives anywhere near this has reached out to me in opposition of this one. Okay, that's fine. It does need to come before us. I just don't know where it's going to go quite yet.
Okay.
When it does, Karen.
And I'll
Thank you.
double check right before the meeting to see if we'd had any additional opposition on any of the cases since Planning Commission, but I will double check and just make sure we've been communicating with
Yeah,
anyone.
we've
that
had
a
at least
question.
one neighborhood meeting over it. I think there've been a few since then, at least virtually. So yeah, I'd love to hear if you've heard
I'll check on
anything
that
else. If
one.
not, I'll continue to conversations with the developer. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chair. As we look at these new developments, something just keeps coming to mind. I spent yesterday with our Director of Parks and Rec driving through District 2, and I just a word of warning for something that we have seen ourselves suffering with. We've got neighborhoods that are basically cul-de-sac neighborhoods in my district where they go up ridges all along Norcross Road and nothing connects. Very little of it connects. And I think in an effort potentially to control traffic, we've caused a bigger traffic problem than there was. So as I hear things like no curb cuts or, I just wonder as we look toward the rewrite of our codes, if we might consider beginning to require some kind of plan for an outlet of the neighborhood to another one that would eventually be in the field next to it. As District 3 has a lot of awesome land out there. And if it's a whole bunch of cul-de-sac neighborhoods, I think we might be causing ourselves congestion that we might not want. I imagine other neighborhoods other districts have some similar concerns. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hill. Might be worth noting, Karen, I'm going to take this from you because I know where you're going. On developments of 200 or more, there is an automatic trigger for a second entrance. If that helps a little bit, knowing that the conversation has gone in that direction. But am I right on the 200?
That there is a threshold. And I was going to comment, we did a study looking at the exact same thing, a connectivity report, and people past places to show the benefits of that. And I'll share that with you because we've kind of used that as a backbones for some of our other work.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Karen, Next item is in good old District 4.
That's
Right.
correct. This is on East Brainerd Road. This is also very near the city limits on the eastern edge of the city. Unincorporated county is across the street from the site. The request is to rezone from C5 commercial to C2 commercial for self-storage and mini warehouse use. There was no opposition. Planning Commission found that the request is partially compatible with the East Brainerd Corridor Plan, adjacent land uses and development form, and recommended approving C2. And to assist with the compatibility, a condition of self-storage mini warehouse use only and a 50-foot undisturbed buffer along the shared property line that runs along the east and northeast. And it has the tax map number in the ordinance just to help clarify that.
So this is a very interesting case. Normally, if you were to ask me for self-storage and mini warehouses, I would start to turn green and shake. But this is in a very interesting, challenging area with a TDOT wetland that is basically unusable for residential development. And I stated this at Planning Commission. The most important part of this case was in discussion with adjacent property owners. And they were absolutely, they love the idea. Matter of fact, two of the property owners I found out yesterday are actually under contract to sell their property to this. So the buffer, Karen, I'm going to ask you that I was very adamant about at Planning Commission actually needs to be removed from this case, because the properties are under contract. And I do have a letter from the property owners stating that they give permission for that rezoning. So that'll come through next PC. But this is a very challenging spot, and it actually works out for a lot of people. So that's the overall view of this case, and I'm seeing no light. So we'll go ahead and move on to item E.
This is, I will note for item E that we had requested an amendment to the caption, or excuse me, a change to the caption. It doesn't change the substance of the language of the ordinance, but just for clarity, this is a recommendation to approve a lifting of conditions. And I believe Maria made the change and might be on perhaps a newer agenda, but just to note for clarity's sake, this is a lifting of conditions. Shelbourne Drive is about a block south of Highway 58, just a couple blocks east of Highway 153. And the applicant it has a property zoned R4 and C2 with conditions, and was seeking a rezoning to R4 to build a quadruplex, a 4-unit home. And then in speaking to the neighboring property owner that owned the commercial property on Highway 58, they determined that the applicant, applicant determined in speaking to him that lifting conditions would probably be a better approach to doing the development that he desired. So at Planning Commission, there was a recommendation to move forward with the lifting conditions and adding a condition. So the original conditions were there shown in red. Structures, parking, legal description, existing easements. The revised conditions would be lifting the first 4 conditions, but keeping the condition that states no apartments. So this is coming to you with a recommendation to lift 4 of the 5 conditions, but keep the condition that states no apartments. And this addressed the initial concerns, although it was a little confusing at Planning Commission.
Sure, Karen. So to recap this should not say rezoning, but it should be a lift conditions caption. City Attorney has that to make changes for Tuesday's reading. I'm getting a nod, yes.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yep.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move to item F, please.
Okay, this is rezoning for a very small piece of property on Cowart Street in Southside Gardens area. It's a small urban lot. It's 0.08 acres. The property is a small part of a larger project that encompasses the greater area of 34 units. Property to the north, south, and east are zoned C3. The applicant would like to rezone this small property to C3. There was no opposition present at Planning Commission, and staff and Planning Commission recommended approval with conditions, and the condition is limited to residential uses only.
Councilwoman Dotley, anything to add? Very good. Thank you. All right, Karen, we are moving on to G, please.
Okay, this is it on 4012 West Avenue. This is the Shepherd Arm Rescue Mission just east of Forest Hills Cemetery in St. Elmo. They're seeking rezoning to R4 to add a women's medical clinic to the mission. Staff and Planning Commission found that the request is compatible with adopted land use plan, adjacent land uses, and development form. There was no opposition, but there is, due to the close proximity of adjacent single-family dwellings, it comes with a condition because the R4 zone does allow such a wide range of uses. And that condition is institutional, medical office, social service agencies, rescue missions, residential uses, drug and alcohol, penal or correctional halfway houses, rehab centers, and uses similar in character only. So that would prevent things like perhaps like a drive-through bank or something that might not be in character.
Very good. Councilwoman? Very good. Thank you very much. Item H, Karen.
This is the, I'm sorry, I had the wrong number on that. This is 1200 block of Holtzclaw. This is a rezoning to the UGC General Commercial Zone. The alternate version on your agenda reflects that rezoning to request UGC for a multifamily residential development and daycare. This has been before you several times. It originally came in as a request to C2. The applicant requested a change to UGC. They had heard the staff recommendation at Planning Commission, which said that the area plan promoted a different type of mix and had a different vision for the Holtzclaw corridor. So they changed from kind of a warehousing type use to residential. They revised the site plan. I think there was just there was a transition period, so council had deferred it. The applicant has spoken to Councilman Knoll, has met and talked to several of the neighbors, and has a revised site plan. So the revised site plan is this. There are two 4-story buildings on Holtzclaw. The smaller building kind of to the northeast of the site is the daycare. There's already a daycare on the site, and they're relocating and I believe building a new building for that. So the applicant, this is a site plan that was provided to me this afternoon. And the applicant stated that this reflects the communication with the neighborhood. There's the same number of units, but it's in 2 buildings that are 4 stories, so we can keep everything as far from the neighborhood as much as possible. I will note that the alternate version that is in your ordinance has a maximum height of 3 stories. The applicant originally was proposing multiple buildings scattered throughout the site with only 3 stories, but I think in response to the concern from the neighborhood, he's pushed everything up to Holtzclaw and has gone 4 stories. So if council wants to move forward with the case, I think that that condition may need to be dropped if you would like to allow him to go to 4 stories.
So Karen, this is a case that I had started in absence of the appointment of Councilwoman Knoll, and I'm very happy that she took that case over for me, as it required some in-depth community meetings, and thank you for that very much. The crux of the takeaway from this was that the neighbors wanted the buildings further away, so creating more buffer space. In order to do that, you've also reduced the number of buildings on the plan, but the request is to go up 1 more story to accommodate fewer buildings. Is that the recap?
That is, I think, a good recap. You can see on the site plan, there's a neighborhood that abuts this to the east, and so just less impact. He's moving everything to the Holtzclaw side of it. And just in talking about his staff, having buildings fronting the street is kind of a good urban form. So we didn't have any additional
Very
comments.
good. I'd love for Councilwoman Knoll, if you'll hit your light, please. Try it one more time for me. No, ma'am, I'm not seeing it yet. How's
Did
that?
I get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay, thank you. I have had conversation with every single resident that is on Hendrick Street. Had some concerns. Met with the developer and the contractor on Monday morning. In the last conversation we had yesterday, he did bring me plans so that I could see them, and I did look over them. But there's another meeting scheduled tomorrow at 6 with the president of the neighborhood association and the director of the daycare. So the daycare person, I think, has some issues or some concerns as well. So that's where we are with that.
Very good. We'll
Okay.
wait to hear, take your lead on what comes out of that meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Karen, item I believe we are
Okay.
next.
This is at Slayton Avenue and East Main Street. The applicant's proposing 16 residential uses in an existing historic structure. In order to get the density needed, is seeking a rezoning, to UGC. There was no opposition at Planning Commission, and it comes with a staff and Planning Commission recommendation to approve with a condition. And the condition is, approved subject to auto-oriented uses, adult-oriented establishments, self-service storage facilities, wholesaling with accessory warehousing and hospitals shall be prohibited. So that is this is in the downtown area plan, which doesn't give a lot of guidance, but that condition reflects the Area 3 Historic River to Ridge Plan, which is in close proximity just for consistency.
Very good. Thank you, Karen. Councilwoman Knoll, anything you'd like to add on? Item I, ma'am.
Item I this is the first time I've seen this. No, this is yeah. Is it with the same contractor?
It is not. This is, I believe it's Peppers Construction, and it is the old, and I apologize, I should have pulled the name of the building. It is an old urban, I believe it was an old hotel, and they're just reusing the existing structure to rehab it to put in residential units. But I can send you a picture of the structure and a kind of a screenshot. But my understanding is they're just taking that old hotel and rehabbing. There was a newspaper article about it, I think, recently, and I can send you that information too.
Okay, I would really love to see that.
Is there
Because I'm
anything
not
we can
familiar
answer
with
for
this.
you at the moment?
Beg your pardon?
Anything else we can answer for you?
No, that's it.
Okay, Karen, if you'll help get that information to
I will.
Councilwoman Knoll, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Item J, please, Karen.
Okay. This is a proposal on East 18th Street for 5 townhouse units. The applicant was seeking rezoning from R2 to UGC for those units. The plan, the River to Ridge plan, supports a range of housing type, but the proposed UGC zone allows for uses that are more of a secondary use as envisioned by the plan, not the primary development form for the area. So staff and Planning Commission recommended denying the UGC and approving the RTZ zone. It allows the development of the townhouse use with urban setbacks. The condition is to access from the alley and parking to the rear only, which is one of the plan goals. The applicant acknowledged his acceptance of the zone at Planning Commission and did not express any concerns with moving forward with the RTZ with the condition from alley access, with alley access.
Very good. Councilwoman, you're active.
Okay, once again, I have not seen this, Karen.
Okay.
it has not come before me. So I'll need to check on that, please.
Okay, and I can ask the applicant for both the last case and this case to reach out to you?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll send you the additional materials, and then I'll ask them to reach out to you.
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
And Karen, will you be available for Councilwoman Knoll to have any questions,
Absolutely,
please,
yes.
during this week before we move to first reading?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Item K, please.
This was one of the cases that had opposition at Planning Commission. This is a rezoning from R1 to R2 in the Brainerd area on Montview Drive. It's primarily single-family residential development form to the west, south, and east of the site. And it's a multifamily development to the northeast, but that fronts on a road that runs parallel to the north of the site. The zoning for the site is R1. You'll see the R3 multifamily zoning to the north of the site. The applicant is proposing to bring the existing structure, and it appears to be operating as had been operating as a triplex. The applicant would like to bring it into compliance, but it's been vacant for more than 100 days, so requires a rezone. And is seeking the R2 rezoning for order for it to be used as a two-family dwelling. So even if it was used for a triplex, of course, that could not be done in the R2 zone. So the applicant would like to develop or bring the home into compliance as a duplex at this location, but it does appear to have been operating as a triplex. The single-family residential character of this area has not changed significantly since the 1995 Brainerd downzoning, where the zoning changed to the R1 that you see. There is a need for diverse and affordable housing options citywide, though, and the comprehensive plan describes this area as having a high potential for development and redevelopment. We don't have a more specific area plan for the area. So staff recommended approval, but noted that the applicant really needs to work with LDO to make sure the existing structure is brought up to current residential code. There was opposition from neighbors at the meeting, talked a bit about just the activity on site, noise, parking, upkeep of the site. But Planning Commission went ahead and recommended approval of the R2 zone, as did staff. So this would allow them to bring an upgrade and bring that existing structure up to a duplex.
Karen, I'll do my best in Councilwoman Coonrod's absence. From what I recall in the meeting, the opposition was not really opposed at all to a duplex, but the site had been used in a triplex and also a lot of nuisances to report. And the project has now, or the product has been, the building site has been acquired by another source who has quite the different plans for it, and upgrading it and maintaining it in the fashion that it was supposed to be, I guess, from the start.
That's my memory too, is that it's been acquired and that it's a company that would maintain it as a business, as part of a portfolio.
And that seemed to satisfy the opposition concerns, if I recall.
A lot of the concerns seem to be about management of what is going on that site and just the activity.
Correct. So just wanted to note that for the record. Thank you. One other note, Karen, while we're here, outside of one case in District 8, my memory recalls, we have passed or changed back to R2 from R1, and the EPB formula, the disconnect. We've only not passed that change. Is there something that we should be looking at in regards to that policy?
And you're talking about the 100-day
The 100-day
power
disconnect,
cutoff?
Yeah. Yeah. In 5 years plus, I think I've only recalled, and I remember the case in District 8 where we did not. It seems that we have allowed that every single time.
We did pull, and I think it was talking about this case. We did talk about how many times and what is the activity for rezoning from R1 to R2. Some of those have probably not had their power cut off. but the vast majority staff has recommended approval for. And I don't know that we looked at Planning Commission and council action, but I will note the 100-year cutoff discussion has had a lot of discussion at Planning Commission. And that was one of the items that was zeroed in on the zoning code assessment, that if we do want diverse housing stock, and we want to make sure that our the maintenance of homes in our existing neighborhoods, that's something we probably need to take a look at. So that is something that is on our agenda, to look at that along with zoning.
Okay. I thank you. I appreciate that. I think I remember Camiro's talking about that in the presentation. So, all right. Item L, please, Karen.
Okay, this is on Bailey Avenue. The applicant is, just about a block west of Macaulay Avenue, so on the ridge side of Bailey. It's a rezoning request from RTC to the UGC Urban General Commercial Zone for multifamily. The applicant stated that he would like to develop a sixplex on each parcel. That was in the application. At Planning Commission, there was talk about possibly doing a little bit more development than the sixplex on each parcel. Staff recommended denying the UGC and felt that the RTZ zone fulfilled the plan area goals, and that rezoning to UGC would introduce a mixed-use zone into this residential neighborhood. Planning Commission found the request was compatible with the plan, with conditions which would include residential use only and maximum height of 2 stories. There was not opposition, but the Planning Commission felt that the conditions for the UGC would help support the plan recommendation.
Very good. Thank you, Karen. I am seeing no lights. Item M, please.
This is on Greenwood Road, a rezoning to R2 on Greenwood Road, which is about a block south of Wilcox Boulevard. The proposal is to construct 2-family dwellings. The proposed development is compatible with comprehensive plan goals that support infill and redevelopment in this area. The current zone does allow around 10 single-family homes. The R2 zone would allow townhomes and 2-family dwellings. There was no opposition at Planning Commission, and both staff and Planning Commission are recommending approval for this.
Very good, Karen. I am seeing no lights. Item N, please.
This is the ordinance amendment for the urban general commercial zone. Councilman Ledford brought to Planning Commission's attention in February that the UGC zone, that sometimes there's a lack of clarity related to the urban general commercial zone and landscaping in particular. The Regional Planning Commission asked staff to work with development partners in LDO and see if there was a need to provide a little bit more clarity. We are using the UGC zone quite a bit. And I think one of the complexities of the situation is the UGC zone has landscaping requirements, and then there's a landscaping ordinance. So sometimes there's a little bit of confusion about what was working and how they work together. So this is intending to address that. So we worked with several of our development partners and trying to understand their concerns and working with the Land Development Office. And the amendment is addressing some of providing some clarification about street yard requirements, landscaping buffers, landscaping applicability. And I believe we met, came up with a good working method that'll help the UGC be a little bit clearer to use and enforce.
Karen, I appreciate that. And I thank you for saying that. I brought it forward, but in complete team spirit, we worked together, and my engineering community helped bring this to light. We worked together through a solution. I appreciate Planning Commission as well to help us figure out where things are awry and to put them straight. So this was a really good team effort, and I appreciate the comments. Thank you. I am seeing no lights on this item. Hit resolutions 7B, please.
Okay, this is for Macaulay School. It is a request for a special permit for an institutional planned use development for the Macaulay School campus. There was no opposition. President Planning Commission and staff and Planning Commission both recommended approval of the institutional PUD.
So Karen, I'm going to take an opportunity. We've got probably a good while, maybe the next hour, we could talk about the difference between an iPud and a PUD. I'm kidding. I'm not going to do an hour, maybe 30 minutes. Would you briefly, let's take an opportunity for us to discuss for the council's education, what a difference between, and we can do this in Cliff Notes, an iPud versus a regular PUD.
Okay.
Because we don't see iPuds very common, and obviously I stands for institutional, and they have some different, if you would touch on that a little
Sure.
bit. Yeah.
The institutional PUD allows flexibility that a campus-style development might need. So Baylor is an institutional PUD, UTC is an institutional PUD. The old Tennessee Temple Complex was an institutional PUD, but that has been abandoned. And the PUD is intended just to allow flexibility and standards. Some of the examples might be that off-street parking can be located anywhere, that multiple buildings can be located on one lot, and there's fewer building setbacks requirements. So it just allows a little bit more flexibility inside that campus, where instead of you have a lot in a building and the required parking, it just allows a little bit more movement because you have administrative buildings and residences and athletic fields. So it allows all that to happen. And this just really encompasses the boundary of the Macaulay School property and allows them to continue to develop that way.
Very good. I'm not seeing any lights, Karen, so I think you did a fantastic job at explaining. I thought I saw Chief Murphy here. Oh, there she is. Chair wants to recognize Chief Murphy. Hello. Welcome to Planning and Zoning, the most exciting part of your Tuesday. Yes, ma'am. I like her. I like her. Let the record reflect that. All right. Do we have any other business, Chairman, that we need to take care of this evening? All right, then we will adjourn until 6.